Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. That's the spirit behind every crafted nest creation. An empty can might look like waste, something to toss away without thought. But with a touch of color and imagination, it can hold life again. A can of coffee, soup, or soda becomes a home for roots and leaves, a vessel reborn with purpose. Picture a quiet Sunday morning, sunlight spilling across your backyard table. There's a row of old cans waiting to be transformed. You pick one up, brush away the dust, and dip your brush into soft pastel paint. Blue, peach, mint, the colors are calm. As you paint, you don't just decorate metal. You give it a second chance. Soon, small flowers bloom from its rim, and the dull silver becomes a garden of color. This simple act carries its own rhythm. The sound of brushes, the smell of soil, the satisfaction of turning waste into wonder. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. You create something unique, something that feels like you. And when you line them up along the fence or hang them from a bamboo rack, they sway gently in the wind, each one catching light differently, each one a memory shaped by your hands. Recycle can planners remind us that beauty often hides in the simplest forms, that we can paint over the dull, fill emptiness with life, and give forgotten things new meaning. In the end, it's not just a garden you grow, it's a reflection of your creativity and care. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. That's how every piece of beauty begins. An old wooden pallet, once used to carry heavy loads, can find a new purpose when it meets your imagination. With a little sanding, a bit of polish, and care in every nail, that rough timber becomes something soft, warm, and personal. A wall shelf that tells a story. Imagine standing in your living room or garden corner. The sunlight hits the wood just right, highlighting the grains and small imperfections that make it unique. On the shelf, you place your favorite plant, a book you love, maybe a photo that means something to you. Suddenly, a blank wall turns into a memory board, built not by a factory, but by your own hands. There's something deeply grounding about working with wood. The scent, the texture, the sound of each hammer tap. It slows you down, lets you breathe, reminds you that creation doesn't have to be perfect. The beauty of pallet shelves lies in their honesty. Simple materials turned into functional art. And what makes it more special is the transformation itself. From forgotten lumber to centerpiece, from dust to design. Each shelf becomes part of your space and your rhythm, rustic, real, full of character. DIY is like that, taking what the world overlooks and giving it meaning again. When you hang your pallet shelf and step back, you don't just see storage, you see possibility. You see what care can build. You see you, observe, imitate, and then make it your own. That's the rhythm of creation. Quiet, patient, full of small wonders. A simple glass jar, once home to jam or coffee, becomes a world of its own when you fill it with soil, pebbles, and a touch of green. It's like capturing a piece of nature in sidelight. Picture yourself sitting by the window on a calm afternoon. The sunlight spills gently across your table as you place a handful of moss at the bottom of a clean jar. A small fern follows, its roots brushing against the glass, then a sprinkle of stones for balance. As you hang it up, it catches the light, and for a moment, it feels alive. Hanging terrariums have a way of making time slow down. Each one is a small ecosystem, a miniature garden that asks for almost nothing yet gives you serenity in return. They're perfect for small spaces, floating gardens that invite calm into corners often forgotten. And there's beauty in their transparency. You can see every layer, every root, every drop of moisture collecting like dew. It's a reminder that growth doesn't need to be hidden to be magical. When evening comes, the glass reflects the fading sun, and your little jars glow like lanterns of life. They whisper something subtle. That creation isn't always loud or grand. Sometimes it's just a jar, a plant, and your quiet intention. Through these terrariums, you don't just decorate your home. You bring nature closer, contained yet free, reminding yourself that beauty often lives in the smallest, simplest things. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. Because even what was once worn and forgotten can be made beautiful again. A tire, black and heavy, meant to roll and run, can rest and hold life instead. With a little imagination, it becomes a pond, small, calm, and full of reflection. Picture a warm morning in your backyard. The sound of water trickling, the shimmer of light on its surface, the gentle movement of leaves above. In the center, your creation. A simple tire turned into a tiny oasis. You've lined it with stones, added water lilies, maybe a few goldfish exploring their new home. The dark rubber now frames a world of color and motion. Working on it feels almost meditative. You clean, arrange, fill, and step back, and what was once waste becomes a mirror to the sky. The beauty of an upcycled tire pond lies in its humility. It doesn't try to be grand. It simply exists peaceful and purposeful. Each detail you add, a ring of pebbles, a sprig of fern, a reflection of clouds, makes it more than decoration. It becomes a living reminder that creation often begins where others stop looking, that what seems finished can still hold potential. By evening, when the sun glows orange and the water turns to gold, you see your pond come alive. In the ripples and reflections, there's quiet pride. You took something meant to move and taught it stillness, and somehow, in that stillness, it found beauty. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. That's the heartbeat of every handmade creation. A coconut shell, once emptied and forgotten, can become a vessel of light. With patience and a little care, you carve, polish, and shape it into something that glows softly, turning what was waste into quiet beauty. Imagine sitting under the evening sky, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of earth and sea. On the table before you, small candle holders made from coconut shells flicker with golden light. Their carved patterns dance across the surface, spilling shapes onto wood, the wall, the air. It feels calm, timeless, as though the night itself is breathing with you. The process is simple, yet grounding. You cut, clean, sand, and trace tiny holes or patterns, each one a small window for the light to pass through. When you place a candle inside, those patterns come alive, creating a world of warm shadows and soft gleam. Coconut shells are a gift from nature that remind us of balance. Sturdy yet gentle, humble yet graceful. By crafting them into candle holders, you're not just decorating a space, you're giving light form and memory. As night deepens, the glow reflects in your eyes. It's quiet satisfaction, the joy of making something beautiful with your hands. Each flicker tells the same truth. Even simple things, when touched by care, can shine. And that's the crafted nest way, to turn everyday materials into moments of peace. With these coconut shell candles, you don't just light a room, you light a feeling. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. That's where transformation begins. An old wooden ladder, once used to reach for things long out of touch, now becomes something that brings life closer to your eyes. Step by step, it grows again, not upward, but outward with green, color, and calm. Picture this, an old ladder resting quietly in the corner of your garden. Its paint is chipped, its surface rough from years of use. You run your hand along the wood, remembering its weight and purpose, and then an idea blooms. You repaint it in soft colors, place small pots on each step, and suddenly the ladder turns into a living sculpture, a vertical garden of your own making. Each pot holds a different story. Herbs that scent the air, small flowers that catch sunlight, trailing vines that spill down like gentle waterfalls. Its beauty made simple, honest, natural, and human. The joy of this project lies not just in how it looks, but in how it feels. Reusing something once forgotten gives it soul. You didn't buy it new, you gave it another chance. And in doing so, you remind yourself that creation doesn't always require more. Sometimes, it just needs imagination. When you sit back and look at your ladder garden, sunlight catching the leaves, there's a quiet sense of pride. The ladder no longer climbs walls. It climbs toward renewal. In every leaf and bloom, you see proof that growth always finds a way, even in things that once stood still. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. Because even a single thread can become art when guided by care. A rope, coarse and simple, can carry more than weight. It can carry light. When wrapped, woven, and shaped around glass or wood, it turns into something soft and alive. A rustic lamp that glows like evening warmth. Picture the scene. Your hands moving slowly, wrapping thick rope around an old bottle or jar. The texture rough yet comforting beneath your fingers. A little glue, a bit of patience, and soon you hang it above your table. As dusk falls, you turn it on, and there it is, that golden light, the one that makes everything around it feel calm and alive. The beauty of these lamps lies in their imperfection. Each twist, each knot, tells a story of your hands. The rope's natural fibers bring a raw warmth that no factory-made lamp can mimic. It feels human, made with time, not haste. Hang one on your porch, maybe two over your dining corner, and let their light breathe life into the space. The glow will touch wood, reflecting glass, and make even silence feel full. Rustic rope lamps remind us that light doesn't always come from electricity. Sometimes it comes from intention, from seeing the potential in simple materials and giving them new purpose. When you sit beneath that glow, you'll realize something quietly powerful. Beauty doesn't always shine brightest. Sometimes it just glows, steady, soft, and handmade. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. That's the crafted Nest way. Bricks carry the story of time. Once part walls, now resting beneath open sky. When you reuse them, you bring structure back to your garden. Order born from age, strength softened by purpose. Imagine a quiet morning, the scent of wet soil rising as you kneel by your garden bed. You press an old brick into place, then another, each one clicking gently against the earth. The pattern begins to form, a line, a curve, a rhythm. Soon, the edge of your garden transforms, clean, bold, beautiful. There's something deeply grounding about this work. It's not just arranging bricks. It's drawing boundaries for life. It separates soil from grass, yet connects them through balance. When the sunlight hits the bricks in the afternoon, they glow warm and earthy, a perfect contrast to the greens they protect. Each brick you lay becomes a small act of intention. You're not building walls to keep things out. You're framing beauty, giving your garden a finished touch that feels both natural and human. And what's wonderful is how simple it is. Old bricks, a bit of time, and your own eye for alignment. By evening, when you stand back and look, the transformation is quiet but complete. The border doesn't shout for attention. It simply defines, supports, and enhances what you've grown. That's what makes DIY special. Not the grandness of the project, but the pride in seeing your care take shape. With every brick, you don't just edge your garden, you give it soul. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own, because creativity often hides in what we overlook. A plastic spoon, ordinary and disposable, can become something extraordinary when touched by imagination. From something meant to be thrown away, it transforms into a flower that never fades. Picture yourself at the table on a bright afternoon. Sunlight filters through the window, casting soft shadows on the spoon scattered before you. With a pair of scissors and a few strokes of paint, each spoon begins to change. White becomes gold, dull becomes radiant. Slowly, you glue them in place, forming petals that spiral outward like a sunrise in bloom. When it's done, you lift your creation and hang it on the wall. Suddenly, your space feels different, alive, personal, and proud. What was once plastic waste now reflects light like polished metal. It catches every ray of the sun, every glance of those who pass by, and tells a quiet story of renewal. The beauty of spoon art lies in its irony, delicate art born from something so ordinary. It reminds us that beauty doesn't depend on cost or rarity, but on the heart behind the hands that make it. DIY projects like this are more than crafts. They're reflections of gratitude, for time, for creativity, for the chance to give meaning to what others throw away. And when someone asks, "Where did you buy that?" you can smile and say, "I didn't buy it. I made it." Because sometimes the best kind of art isn't the one that's perfect. It's the one that carries your fingerprints. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. The process that turns simplicity into beauty. A handful of cement, a mold, and a bit of patience can create something timeless. Concrete may seem cold and rough, yet in your hands, it becomes soft with meaning, shaped not by machines but by care. Picture a quiet morning. You mix cement and water in an old bowl, stirring slowly until the texture feels right. The air smells faintly of earth and dust. You pour the mixture into small molds, maybe plastic cups, maybe boxes, and let them rest under sunlight. Hours later, when you peel them open, you reveal shapes that feel grounded and real. Pots that hold more than soil, they hold intention. Concrete has a way of teaching patience. It takes time to cure, to harden, to find its strength, much like growth itself. Each pot, though imperfect, carries its own charm. Little air bubbles, uneven edges, the marks of creation. They stand as quiet reminders that beauty doesn't need to be flawless. When you fill them with green, succulents, cacti, or herbs, something magical happens. The raw, gray tone of concrete makes the colors of life even more vivid. Its contrast turns harmony. These small pots become more than just containers. They become lessons in balance. Strength and gentleness, raw and refined, man-made and natural, all meeting in one simple shape. And when you place them on your shelf or window, catching sunlight in the afternoon, they seem to whisper. Even the strongest things can hold the softest life. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. That's the melody of handmade design. An old crate that once carried fruit or bottles can be reborn as furniture that holds stories instead of goods. With a little sanding, a touch of paint, and a steady hand, you can turn something rough into something remarkable. Picture the scene. Your living space bathed in soft daylight. Wooden crates lie scattered on the floor, waiting. You brush off the dust, run your fingers along the wood, and begin. Sanding edges, aligning corners, adding color. Bit by bit, they stack together into a small cabinet that feels alive. When you place it by the wall, it doesn't just hold objects, it holds warmth. There's a certain comfort in working with wood. The grain tells its own history, and each imperfection adds character. Maybe you paint it in soft white for a clean look, or leave it rustic and raw for charm. Either way, it becomes uniquely yours. When the cabinet is done, you fill it. A favorite book, a candle, a pot of lavender. Suddenly, your room feels balanced, grounded by something both useful and meaningful. You didn't just build storage, you built peace. DIY projects like these remind us that sustainability isn't just about saving resources. It's about giving things new life, giving spaces personality. Every nail, every brushstroke is a reflection of time well spent. And when someone asks, "Where did you buy that?" you'll smile and say, "I didn't. I made it." Because sometimes the most beautiful furniture doesn't come from a store. It comes from your own hands. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own. Because beauty often hides in the everyday. Bottle caps, the small and forgotten remnants of daily life, can come together to create something breathtaking when you see them not as trash, but as color, pattern, and story. Imagine a weekend afternoon, music playing softly in the background, a pile of caps in front of you, reds, blues, greens, silvers, each one different, each one a memory of a shared drink, a celebration, or a simple day. You start arranging them on a wooden tabletop, one by one, finding rhythm in randomness. Circles become flowers, lines become waves. When you pour clear resin over the finished pattern, the transformation feels magical. The surface shines like glass, the colors deepen, and the table becomes more than furniture. It becomes a mosaic of moments. Each cap carries its own past, but together they tell a new story, one of patience, creativity, and care. It's art built from what others discard, proof that beauty doesn't always need new materials, only new perspectives. The finished piece glows under sunlight, vibrant and full of character. Guests notice it immediately. "That's amazing. Where did you get it?" And you smile, knowing it was made with your own hands. In that moment, you realize something simple yet profound. When you give time to small things, they become extraordinary. Bottle caps, once unnoticed, now hold a place of pride. Reminders that art isn't found. It's made one tiny piece at a time. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own, because light becomes more meaningful when it's made by your hands. A simple tin can, cold and forgotten, can be turned into something that glows with quiet warmth. Each tiny hole you carve becomes a star in your personal night sky. Picture a calm evening. The air is still, carrying the scent of soil and leaves. You kneel by a small table with a can, a hammer, and a nail. Tap by tap, holes appear, circles, lines, maybe even a flower. When the candle inside flickers to life, those patterns bloom with golden light. Later, you line them along your garden path. As the sun fades, the lanterns awaken, casting dots of light across the stones. The path glows not with electricity, but with presence. The slow, thoughtful kind that only comes from something you made yourself. There's a peace in that glow. It's imperfect, uneven, but deeply alive. Each lantern feels like a little heartbeat of your space, humble, handmade, and proud. The recycled tin, once discarded, now tells a story of renewal, of finding use in what was forgotten. When you walk the path at night, the light dances around your feet. It guides you gently, not just through your garden, but back to the joy of creating. That's the crafted nest spirit. Turning stillness into art and letting light remind us that even the smallest sparks can warm the world. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own, because beauty often floats to us, carried by the sea. Driftwood, smoothed by waves and time, holds stories from shores we've never walked. When you gather it, tie it, and hang it, you're not just decorating. You're preserving whispers from the ocean. Imagine an afternoon by the beach. The tide is low, and you wander along the sand, picking up small pieces of driftwood, light weathered, each one different. Their textures feel alive, shaped by salt and sun. Back home, you lay them out, pairing them with shells, beads, maybe feathers. With rope and patience, you tie them together, forming lines and layers until it becomes something that feels both wild and gentle. When you hang it on the wall, the air seems to shift. The light catches a natural with tones, and your space breathes calmer. It's as if a bit of sea found its way into your home, soft, quiet, eternal. Driftwood decor is not about perfection. It's about connection. Each knot, each strand, reminds you of where it came from, the hands of nature, not machines. It brings warmth to white walls, life to still corners, and meaning to materials that once drifted aimlessly. At night, when the wind moves, the pieces sway softly, whispering songs of tide and distance. You realize then that what you created isn't just decoration. It's memory, a gentle reminder that nature always returns what we give it, in forms far more beautiful than we expect. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own, because life grows beautifully in simple places. A glass jar, once holding jam or honey, can hold something more precious now, a living scent of nature right in your home. With a little soil, a handful of seeds, and sunlight, you can grow your own green corner of calm. Picture a bright morning in your kitchen. Sunlight slips through the window and lands on a row of jars, each one clear, clean, and alive. Inside them, mint spreads its leaves, basil reaches for warmth, and rosemary stands tall and fragrant. You water them gently, watching droplets run down the glass like morning rain. It's not just gardening, it's meditation. There's something pure about a jar herb garden. You see everything. The roots gripping the soil, the condensation forming like breath, the slow miracle of growth. You don't need a big yard or fancy tools. Only care, patience, and a bit of curiosity. Each time you pluck a few leaves for cooking, you feel a quiet satisfaction. This flavor, this freshness, it came from your own hands. It makes every meal feel a little more meaningful, every day a bit greener. DIY like this isn't only about saving or reusing. It's about reconnecting with nature, with home, with yourself. And when guests notice your window garden and smile, you'll know what they see isn't just plants. They see calm. They see life. They see you, the creator of a small, beautiful world in glass. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own, because sometimes beauty begins with what's left behind. Bits of fabric, cut from old shirts or curtains, can wrap the world in color again. When you glue them around plain pots, you don't just decorate. You tell a story of memory and renewal. Picture an afternoon at your table. Sunlight touches pieces of fabric scattered across the surface. Florals, stripes, faded denim, maybe linen once loved. You pick each piece, feel its texture, remember where it came from. Then, with gentle glue and patience, you press it onto an old pot. Slowly, the dull surface comes alive in pattern and softness. Each pot becomes its own little character, one bold, one calm, one playful. Together, they form a patchwork garden, each plant wearing a new coat of color. It's simple yet full of life. Working with fabric scraps feels like stitching time itself, taking yesterday's pieces and giving them tomorrow's purpose. There's warmth in that process, a sense of gratitude in reusing what's already been part of your life. When you line them up on your shelf or window, they brighten everything around them. They don't need perfection. Their mismatched beauty is what makes them whole. Fabric wrap pots remind us that creativity doesn't require new things, only new eyes. With a few scraps and a little heart, you can turn leftovers into art. And every time you water your plants, you'll feel that quiet joy again, knowing you didn't just grow flowers. You grew meaning. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own, because even the most ordinary objects can carry comfort if you give them a second life. Plastic crates, once used to move bottles or fruit, can become more than containers. With imagination, they turn into benches, practical, simple, and surprisingly beautiful. Picture a weekend morning, sunlight warming the garden floor. You gather a few crates, clean them, stack them side by side, and fasten them together. A wooden plank across the top becomes a seat, and a soft cushion finishes the look. Just like that, you built something functional, not from new materials, but from purpose. There's a certain satisfaction that comes from sitting on what you've made yourself. The bench feels solid beneath you, yet light enough to move wherever you want. By the plants in the morning, under the shade in the afternoon. You lift the seat, store tools or small pots inside the crates, and smile at the neatness of it all. DIY benches like this carry a quiet kind of brilliance. They prove that design doesn't have to be expensive, only intentional. Each crate carries a story of reuse, a reminder that creativity thrives where waste ends. When evening comes and you rest on your handmade bench, there's peace in that moment, a sense that you've added comfort to your space and meaning to what was once forgotten. That's the crafted Nest way, to find elegance in the everyday, to build comfort with care, and to make your home a reflection of ingenuity and warmth. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own, because even what's shattered can still reflect light beautifully. A broken CD, useless for its old purpose, becomes something extraordinary when you let it shine again in a new form. That's what art is, light finding its way through cracks. Picture this. Afternoon light pouring through your window. You sit with a pile of broken CDs, each fragment catching rainbows on its edges. The pieces glimmer as you place them carefully around a plain mirror frame, one by one, until the circle begins to glow with color. It's like crafting sunlight itself. When you hang it, the mirror transforms your space. Every shift of light sends tiny rainbows dancing across your wall. It doesn't just reflect faces. It reflects moods, hours, seasons. It becomes alive with the rhythm of the day. What once stored data now stores beauty. The broken CDs remind us that even endings can sparkle when seen differently. Their jagged edges, their imperfections, all add texture and story. Making this piece is more than recycling. It's reclamation. A reminder that creation doesn't erase the past. It redefines it. You don't hide the cracks. You turn them into art. Each time you look into the mirror, surrounded by those iridescent pieces, you see a quiet truth. That beauty doesn't need to be whole. It just needs to shine. And as the light dances across your room, you'll realize what Crafted Nest always believes, that even fragments can build wonder when guided by care. Observe, imitate, and then make it your own, because the most beautiful creations often come from blending worlds that don't belong together. Clay and plastic, earth and modern life. Two opposites meeting in your hands to form something unexpectedly graceful. Picture a quiet afternoon, sunlight slipping through the window. On your table, a few old bottles, their shape simple, familiar. You cut, clean, and coat them with clay, smoothing every line until the cold plastic disappears beneath your fingertips. Slowly, the surface turns warm and soft, like new skin being formed. When they dry, you paint them soft whites, deep browns, maybe a splash of gold. Each vase becomes its own personality, rustic yet refined, humble yet elegant. You place wildflowers inside, and they stand proud, life growing from a vessel made of contradiction and care. This kind of DIY reminds you what creation truly means. It's not about choosing between natural or synthetic, new or old. It's about balance, about taking what you have and giving it harmony. When you place your finished vase on a shelf or table, the space feels calmer. The clay holds the warmth of the earth. The bottle holds the story of transformation. Together, they whisper that beauty doesn't come from purity. It comes from unity. Every time you see them catching light, you'll remember what matters isn't what something was, but what it could become when touched by imagination. And that's the essence of Crafted Nest. Turn the ordinary into art and opposites into peace.